Hey, it's Elizabeth here. So I'm just walking through this really pretty forest and I thought I would do a video. And a lot of, I guess, what's roaming through my brain, I just passed another pilgrim and she's jamming out to some music. It's kind of funny. So I thought, I'm in this little beautiful spot and I thought, what the hell, might as well do a video. So I guess that's kind of been bubbling in my brain a lot is, the thing about acceptance. And I think it's really easy for us today to get really into our ego and into our opinions, and I think we kind of almost are becoming more accepting but also less accepting at the same time. So for example, like, we only have so much energy we can burn every single day, and so some of us care or put our energy forth toward certain things than other people. And it doesn't mean that, people don't care about other stuff. It's just you only have so many cares and, tokens that you can put in certain baskets. So for example, like, I care a lot about whales and environment and nutrition and things like healthy food. I am very much against, genetically modified food and stuff like that. But I think a good point to have is that you kind of have to start thinking from both ends of the spectrum on a lot of stuff. And that's really, really important, because if you just stay in your own little echo chamber, you don't ever hear the other points of view. On top of not, you become less accepting because you're just in your own little bubble. And that's a lot of what I spoke about with Danny the other day. And I am here. Let's see if I can take a picture with my DSLR camera, because I want to keep walking. I am here for divorce reasons, and with that comes a ton of acceptance. It's this need or thought that you can't change someone's desire or point of view for not wanting to stay in a marriage. And I think that's very, very difficult to overcome, but it's definitely possible. I don't know. The one thing I would say that was, I guess, a good, nice compliment from my sister was that she said, the one nice thing about me is that I'm such an accepting person. Now that can be a weakness in itself, and I think in the past that's probably got me in quote-unquote trouble, because it's like you just let certain people into your life because you're so accepting of their lifestyle choices and such, but the reality of it is that they're not, good people to have into your life, basically. So I learned my lesson of it, to where it's like you kind of have to be a little less accepting of certain things that you welcome into your existence. But I just passed, like, going out of the urban center, I passed a lot of graffiti that talks in terms of, like, the politics, and Galicia is not Spain, and Spain has its own political issues. Like, Catalonia obviously wants out of Spain. It sounds like Galicia might be the same thing. And it's like, so are these people considered bigots, racists, and fascists for having some form of national pride? And I think the more extreme people get, which America is a very extreme culture, we do things in extremism. I don't think that's anything new, that we become less accepting. And I guess what I'm meaning by this is, I had a conversation with this like 21-year-old boy who worked at the hostel in Braga, and he was saying he loves American people. He's like, they're definitely, like, efficient when they travel. They're on a mission. They're trying to see everything. Which I guess even, like, for me trying to take pictures with my DSLR camera while I'm trying to do this video, it's like, this is such an American thing. But he was saying, like, he loves American people, but he's like, they're kind of extreme. And it's really true. I mean, and that's part of the reason why America is what it is. But you know, Germans are kind of like that too a little bit. When they do something, they do it to like full on completion. But the funny thing is, it's like nowadays we all want everybody to look, maybe not necessarily look, but to look like us or be like us or think like us or have the same ideologies as us. And this is just not how it works. This is why this part of this theory of like find your tribe, it's just we humans are tribesmen basically, and we do best in smaller communities. I mean, Burning Man was a perfect example of when something gets too big, it becomes corrupted. And then when I went to Burning Man in 2016, like a couple women got raped. And it's like, what do you expect when you start opening up the can of worms to these bigger things? Like bad stuff's gonna happen. And that's really symbolic to how these small rural villages live that are like safe little cute communities versus when you go to big cities like Paris, London, LA, you know, you have a lot more crime happening there. And so we do have to find our tribe and just kind of accept people. You know, this is so beautiful right here. There's an younger American couple. The guy is originally from Cleveland. And you know what? I walked by them and they were eating in Burger King last night. And like part of my brain was like, oh my God, get out of your box. Like this is such an amazing country with such great food that, you know, it's kind of a shame they're not exploring that bit of Spain. But, you know, it's like it's a democratic country. They could do whatever they want. So if that's where they want to eat, then that's where they want to eat. And that's very much a reality for what is happening today is like, you know, the far left wants the far right. Those two groups are just lost because they're so stuck in their own ways that it's hard to change them. But we just have to start being more accepting, like the sugar tax that's happening in Seattle. I work in health and fitness. I personally do not think people should be gulping down pop and sugar like they do in America, like it's water. It's obviously not healthy, but you know what? Who am I to tell these people to live their life that way? And you know, a lot of times these silly things end up hurting the poor people more because their habits are not as good as more of like the educated kind of upper echelon who has the means and the knowledge to eat better. But you know, I guess it's like acceptance. I had to accept my ex-husband walking out the door. I had to accept various men this year who tried to date me, chose to date other women and, you know, left me behind. And I guess it's like you just have to come to points of reality and acceptance and a lot of things in life. You know, I think there's two sides of every coin, and every noun or adjective that we have has two sides to it. Like kindness is an amazing thing, and the acts of kindness that I've experienced on this Camino are memories that I'll never forget, like the woman baking me bread for the road, or the man tying a ribbon on my wrist and letting me, you know, take a picture with the Virgin Pilgrim in a church. Those are amazing things. But then you have darkness that runs around the planet, and darkness takes advantage of of kindness. And kindness can be a weakness when you just continue to turn thy cheek and just let people, you know, take advantage of you or use you for your friendliness, or, you know, on a bigger scale, you know, become opportunists and suck off the system of your country. Meanwhile, the working class is the one that's paying for all of, you know, people to live their lives and stuff like that through taxes and such. So I don't know, I guess it's like I have all these great thoughts and then I just don't verbalize it that well when I do these videos. So actually the irony of me doing these videos is helping me with more verbal communication, which is something I don't think I did that well in terms of expressing my feelings in my divorce. So this is kind of like a learning tool for me. Not a learning tool, it's just, it's just helping me. So I thank you for watching and listening, and I just, I don't know, I'm just in this little bubble, and people are like, oh, you're from Seattle, it's so cool, and I'm like, not really. Like, I don't know, I talked to an Australian guy yesterday. There was like 9 of us pilgrims that went out to lunch. There was like 8 girls and 1 guy, and he was saying that he loved Seattle, and he knew of the Green Tortoise Hostel and the Showbox, places like where Nirvana played, and I'm like, oh yeah, all that's getting ripped down. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, greed? Like, people just not giving a shit about our country, or our city, and just ripping out its history just for the pure sake of, building more high rises for our population growth, instead of just at least some point putting like a stamp on our history to be like, what, our population is growing enough, let's start building in Kent, or somewhere else that is not technically destroying the downtown. So I'm all about cultural preservation, because I think that's why people love going to places like Europe and Asia. It's because these cultures are so bloody old. And I don't know, now I'm going off the topic of acceptance, but these, I don't know, our churches are going to become museums. They already kind of are. It's just everything is changing, and I don't know, I walked past another modern building. There's nothing romantic about modern architecture from my point of view. That's my opinion. Everyone else has their own. And the reason why I say that is because it's all square. There are like no triangles, no ovals, no hexagons, no, little bay windows protruding out from the facade. And yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I just think acceptance is something that a lot of us need to ponder. And I think the more extreme you get into a certain group, I've seen it in yoga, like all these spiritual communities, people are so less accepting of others. They constantly put down, middle America, like they're not woken up enough and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then you got like other groups of people. I guess I'm judging a lot of like the upper echelon, like the liberal elites, a lot that you see in the West Coast. Now, I'm judging them, and this is the point. We're all judgmental, and we're probably all hypocrites in some part of our life. So if we can just start admitting these things rather than trying to act all high and mighty like we're better than everyone else, then maybe we can start coming to some common grounds here, because we all judge everyone. And I personally don't like a lot of that elitist attitude. I look back at history, especially while being here in Europe, and if it weren't for the aristocrats, we'd have no culture. So there is like this little bit of a play here that like wealth has in history brought culture. Like Beethoven, his last name had von in it, V-O-N. Von is a sign of being an aristocrat. But the funny thing is today, like if you go to something like Burning Man, all that money is funded by the tech industry. And so for me, there's really nothing super sexy about that, because it's just a bunch of people doing a shit ton of drugs and having sex with each other in orgy domes and calling themselves spiritual. Like that's where it's like, wow, maybe this shit is satanic, because it's ran by a different form of darkness that makes you think like you're being open-minded and liberal and all this other stuff, when really you're just falling into this trap of emotions that I'm not saying people can't heal themselves through some of these things. Like I've heard stories from both sides of the story where it's like people get fucked up from going into that type of culture and other people found themselves through that. So, you know, it's like, who am I to judge? But I do judge it because I just don't think it is spiritual or godly at all. And I haven't read it, but, you know, I heard about that book like Brotopia, and that's what I read in that article. Like, I don't even want to say that out of my mouth because it's so dirty, but these people, wow, look at these mushrooms. These people are doing some really weird sexual things in these like nightclubs, and to me, I'm like, this is the Roman Empire repeating itself, you know? And this is where I guess, like, sorry, I'm taking a photo, and I don't know, I guess this is the point where I get weirded out by certain things. I'm just going in my head, like, today is my third last day of walking. Today's Monday, I have Tuesday, and then I walk into Santiago on the 31st, and then it's All Saints Day, where there is a really big, beautiful mass that will happen on the 1st, and I have to get to the church like 2 hours beforehand to get a spot. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm surrounded by this beauty that is natural and kind of created from God, and I'm like, oh my God, like a lot of my spiritual friends in Seattle, they don't even have interest in tech people or tech guys because they have no soul. And I'm thinking about going back to the city that literally has lost its soul, and it's become a sellout San Francisco elitist suction cup of something. Like, who's gonna, if you keep importing these like tech people, all they want to do is like consume things. They're indulgent. A lot of these men have open relationships and marriages, and they're polyamorous, and it's like, who's gonna take care of the whales? Because everybody with a soul is leaving. They're going to Bend and Bellingham. And I'm, you know, this is where it's like the little grasshopper, to me, is not satanic at all of an experience, but I'm just like, all right, don't fear the future. Like, you can find what you're looking for anywhere in the world, you know, through some form of manifestation. So let's see if that happens. Oh, sorry, hi. All right, I'm gonna let you go. Okay, bye.